Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Study Survival podcast. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about what should you do in that 24-hour window right before your GCSE.
Wow, it's tense.
It's
My
tense.
Goodness gracious me. You're worried, you're crying,
panicking.
You're in the corner, you're curled up.
Rocking back and forth.
What do you do? It's a good question.
It is.
How are you doing today, Blair? Let's start with that.
Yeah, how have you been? I've been away for the last 3 weeks or so because I've just handed in my dissertation at uni. So I'm a free woman, not to rub it in all your faces,
Well done, Blair.
but I've finished. I'm
Wow.
done. And that will be you so soon. So you're in the final sprint now. It will be unreal. How are you though, Will? How was your... I've missed you. I haven't seen you in a
I
while.
missed you too. It's been tough with no podcasts.
I know.
But I'm so glad that we're back and just in time to help students crying in the corner 24 hours before an exam.
Yeah. We've got all the study tips, tricks. No, we've got the tips, tricks, and study hacks that stick.
Brilliant. I'm very excited. Okay,
can't
great. What should you do 24 hours? Wait, it's a 24-hour countdown.
Okay.
I'm panicking.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do I do my past paper? Do I do my flashcards? What's going on? Where do I start?
Okay, so firstly, should you revise the day before an exam? Big question. A lot of people have some kind of, you've got the kids who are cramming, trying to do like 10 hours of revision the day before the exam. The risk of that is you have burnt your brain out. So you'll get into that exam and your brain will say in a little voice, we've been doing this for a very long time now. I don't want to do it anymore. And then you can struggle with having this focus that you can maintain throughout the exam. Maybe you get halfway through the paper and your brain just decides to give up. Your focus is gone. You can't remember anything. So it's really important we're not doing this really heavy cram the day before an exam because we'll overkill it a little bit. Gentle light revision is acceptable. It's a good idea. So active revision techniques like recall, so getting your flashcards out, having a quick test of yourself. If you do want to do a past paper question on a couple of areas, just to double check you've got those kind of knowledge sections set in your brain. And it could be a good idea as well to identify, okay, I need to do a little bit more work on probability because I didn't do as well as I think I could have done. So maybe I just need to tighten up one last area.
Great. Do you think you should stay up until 4 a.m, 6 Red Bulls deep, revising for the exam at 9 a.m? No.
And I think it's so important that you get this really good restful sleep, 7-8 hours of unconscious REM sleep. Hopefully you're having some dreams. Maybe you're somebody who can revise in their sleep. Sometimes I've woken up the day before an exam and I've been so stressed that I've woken myself up and been like, hang on, was I just revising for my history GCSE in my sleep? Maybe you're one of those people, but making sure you're having this proper night routine, settling yourself down, unlocking that deeper level of rest.
That's good.
Go and recharge.
When I was doing A-level maths, I got an E in my mock exam, like a couple of months before the actual exam, right?
It's a shock.
So last minute revision, I was going crazy. I was learning, teaching myself the topics, going through questions. And I remember the night before, I got a really, really good night's sleep. And I woke up in the morning understanding more than I did the night before. The night before, I didn't understand how to do a certain type of question because I got a really good night's sleep. I woke up with like amazing clarity around how to do that question.
Because you've given your brain this proper rest. And there's some research that kind of leans towards showing that kids who don't sleep well before their exam perform relatively similar to kids who haven't actually done that much revision. Because your brain is so tired and it's unable to connect. Here's the question. Here's all the things I know about the answer. And now I'm going to feed them all together.
Wow.
You're not able to do that connection where you can really bring your knowledge to the table and say, here's what I know. And I know I'm right.
So when you sleep and you rest, then those connections are made in the brain. That's amazing. That really makes a lot of sense because some of the best ideas that have happened, just in general, happen in the middle of the night. Waking up, who's it? Adrian Newey, who's like the best car designer in F1 history, gets all his best ideas in the middle of the night. Goes to show, doesn't it? It's like
crazy.
Resting your brain and allowing it to make those connections is so important.
Yeah, exactly. And in terms of how do you get to that deeper level of sleep, obviously going to bed at a reasonable time. If your exam's at 9 o'clock in the morning, and let's say it takes you half an hour to get to school or wherever your exam is, you need to also have your breakfast, whatever. So you need to go to bed early so that you can wake up at this earlier time. And if anybody's on study leave, because I had study leave before my GCSEs, I was quite close to falling in and shifting my sleep patterns and my circadian rhythms across. Because usually when you're in school full time, you're up at 7:30, whatever time people kind of get up. But when I was on study leave, I started waking up a little bit later. So then when I was waking up, the couple of days before my exam, when I was trying to reset my sleep at 7:30, my brain was like, whoa, this is kind of early. Why are we awake? Why are we awake right now? So if you can try and keep this routine with your sleep throughout your entire exam period, bed, same time, wake up, same time. And before you're going to sleep, not going on your phone.
It's very good.
It's so hard. And so many people go on their phone before they sleep. You've got to send your last Snapchat to your mate, or what are you doing tomorrow? How was your day? But coming off even just 20 minutes, even 15 minutes before you try and go to sleep because of the blue light.
Yes.
And whether you have blue light glasses or not, I don't care. I don't want to hear it. Just don't go on your phone before you go to sleep. Otherwise, we're gonna have a problem.
There's an amazing thing called books.
Yeah.
And when I read a book before, I don't do this. I doom scroll. When I read a book before I go to sleep, I sleep so well.
But we never think to do it of our own accord.
Yeah, maybe I should set an alarm. It's like,
Maybe.
It's book time.
Or even something that I did through my exam period was I would stick on a meditation before I went to sleep. There's this really good account on YouTube. It's called Good Film Meditation. It's actually a spin-off of like BuzzFeed. It's part of that like company, whatever. Okay. But they've got a couple of meditations on there, and they're anything from just 5 minutes to 15 minutes. And they've got ones for sleep, anxiety, stress. And the guy's voice is really relaxing, so you can properly get into it. But it kind of takes you through slowing down and focusing on your breathing, regulating kind of your nervous system so that you can unlock this deeper level of sleep. So maybe if you aren't a massive fan of reading, maybe if you're dyslexic, you're not a fan of a book. Yeah. An audiobook might be an alternative, but a meditation, have a go. See what happens. What's the worst? But I think I'm matched.
It's a really good idea. Okay, so we're the day before an exam still. Let's work our way through this timeline.
Yeah.
You said it might not be a good idea to go through a past paper.
Yeah.
So I think it depends on how confident you're feeling. Should you go through a past paper the day before your exam?
Yeah.
If you're confident, I think it's okay.
Yeah.
If you're confident and you're like, actually, I think this is pretty easy, I think I'm very well prepared, then you'll find a specific question. Oh no, I need to focus on probability. And then you can do some last minute probability revision, make that stronger.
Yeah.
If you know you're going to really struggle going through the whole paper, it might be overwhelming to do a past paper the day before your exam, because you're going to go, oh no, I need to revise probability. I need to revise ratios. I need to revise, and then suddenly you've got way too much to do.
Yeah.
So I think the most important thing is picking the topics that you're the least confident on and seeing if you can understand them. Finally.
Yeah, definitely. And even because basically what we fundamentally don't want to do is freak ourselves out the night before, because then that good, lovely sleep that we're going to have, out the window. You may as well just roll around in a car park and try and sleep on the gravel. Do you know what I mean?
Should try it out.
If we are somebody who is maybe a little bit more nervous about doing an entire past paper because you're a bit nervous about how you'll do and you don't want to throw yourself off, you could always just, as you said, pick the weaker topics and just do a couple of past papers and take it a topic at a time, because then you're splitting it down into these more manageable chunks and it feels more acceptable and like you're in control. Because instead of freaking out and thinking, I don't know half the specification, you can kind of identify, okay, I don't really know this area, but maybe now I can spend 40 minutes tightening up my knowledge, getting it more sorted. And then you still have this sense of achievement at the end, even though initially you were starting with the feeling of, ooh, I'm not really sure about this. That can be a good way to mediate.
Yeah, and that's why, like a Bright Teach, we go through exam topic questions.
Yeah.
So every month we send out physical exam topic papers that go through the individual topics, and then we go through them in the evening classes.
Exactly.
So that's what, going through exam topic questions is just, once you sort of have an understanding of the content, is, I think, the best way to revise.
Exactly. And so because we've worked that out via a little bit of trial and error, it's tried and tested.
Yeah.
And that is the way which I think people respond the best to, in terms of just still feeling in control and like they can do something. Because you're a clever kid. You can do it.
Yeah.
You just need to be making sure you're managing these strategies and these techniques so that you can remind yourself of that.
That's really good. So we've revised. It's the night before the exam. Hopefully we've gotten off our phone.
Yeah.
We're getting a good night's sleep. Okay, we're waking up in the morning.
Yeah.
What do we do, Blair?
Eat a good breakfast. Wow. Eat a good breakfast. Say goodbye to the Cocoa Pops on this particular day. Because as my mum says, they're full of air and they're full of sugar. If you can get any kind of protein in your morning meal, so if that's a hard-boiled egg, the amount of hard-boiled eggs I've eaten before exams are ridiculous. Some kind of protein, nuts, eggs, whatever. And then also getting some slow-release carbs in as well, just to keep that energy level throughout the day so you don't kind of start dipping off at midday, especially if you're one of those people who have, unfortunately, on your exam timetable, a morning exam, maybe a lunchtime exam, and then maybe even an afternoon exam. I think it depends on what subjects people have picked. But making sure you are fueling yourself for the whole day, and obviously combining that with plenty of water, making sure you're hydrated. If you're somebody like me who has ADHD, maybe you don't want to have a coffee in the morning, because sometimes when I drink coffee, it can either make me awake and give me that kind of caffeine boost, or it can absolutely knock me out and I'll just sit there kind of zombified. So you need to kind of be aware of these different elements of yourself. And maybe if your exam doesn't start yet, that can be something you can experiment with over the next couple of days. What can I eat and drink that my body will respond to really well and keep me going?
It's really good. Okay, great. So it's the morning of the exam. Should I have some sort of exam kit?
Exam kit, yes. But I would say not the morning of the exam. Night before.
That's good.
Night before. Let's work out what we're wearing. Pretend you're in one of those teen movies where they get all their outfit out the night before, they hang it on the door. Do you know what I mean? Work out what you're wearing. Find your pants, your socks, because you don't want to be running around at 7 o'clock in the morning saying, Mom, I can't find my socks. I haven't got any socks. Make sure you've got everything the night before. If you're going to an exam that needs a calculator, find that. Any kind of identification card. I had to take like a candidate ID thing into my GCSEs, which had a picture of me and my candidate number and everything. Make sure you've set up your pencil case. Maybe you want a box of tissues. You probably need a clear water bottle without a label. That might be something you need to go to the shop and buy if you don't have one, just like a plastic water bottle, because they can be quite fussy about even if it's just like a tinted pink bottle. So you need to make sure you've checked what your school's like exam requirements are. But doing all of that stuff the night before means you wake up in the morning, you just do the stuff you're supposed to do, have your breakfast with your protein, drink your water, brush your teeth, get dressed, and everything is sorted. So you're just minimizing as much stress as possible before you have to go into that exam.
That's really great. Okay, fantastic. And then it's like an hour before the exam. I'm crying, shaking.
Yeah.
Colourful,
vomiting in the corner.
How do I like help ease that pre-exam stress?
Okay, so there's two main things which I would say here. The first one is something my mum told me actually, not to speak to other kids before the exam.
Okay.
And that can sound quite weird because you probably want to go to your friend and say, have you done that much revision? I'm really nervous. But if somebody turns around and says, yeah, I've done so much revision, and you haven't done like an ungodly amount of revision, it can throw you off a little bit and make you start having these doubts in your head of, have I done enough? Do you know what I mean? Or if somebody's saying, oh, well, I saw online that this question topic is going to come up and blah, 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 blah. If you haven't really focused on that topic, it's going to freak you out. So what I used to do when I would go to an exam, obviously you can't take your phones right outside, but I would just sit with my music on and just mind my own business, put myself in my own little bubble, and then focus on part two of what I want to say, of the kind of stress, anxiety regulation, because it's not a case of eliminating how you're feeling, because it's a nerve-wracking thing, especially because when you're doing your GCSEs, you've probably not gone into the same level of exam like importance before, ever. And so it's something new, which obviously brings up kind of nervous feelings, but also you're aware of the weight that this exam is potentially carrying. It's not the end of your life if you don't do well. It's not the end of your life. You can redeem yourself. There's more opportunities, different pathways, whatever. But by focusing on, for example, your breathing, if you're aware that you're getting a little bit more stress, box breathing. Do you know what box breathing is?
I think so.
Okay,
yes.
So it's where you breathe in for, let's say, 4, then you hold for, let's do it in real time. Okay, breathe in for 4 and hold for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Out for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well done. And you just keep doing that. And that can really regulate your breathing, make you feel more in control. Also, if you're using the emotional part of your brain because you're panicking, you're nervous, by even just counting the numbers, pulls some of your brain energy from the emotional side to the logical side. So you're kind of distracting and changing this whole narrative that you have about, oh my God, I'm so nervous, I don't know what to do with myself, to 1, 2, 3. It just, it makes you feel more chilled out.
Excellent.
Do you feel more relaxed from that box breathing?
I feel much relaxed. Good. Thank you, Blair.
That's okay. Anytime.
I feel like if you're watching this, you're not someone who hasn't been revising. You're someone who is taking this very, very seriously. What would you say to someone who has put loads of effort into doing their GCSEs? They're extremely stressed. They're anxious about this. At this moment, it does feel like if this doesn't go well, the world will fall apart.
So I would say, and I'm going to look in the camera when I say this, so if you're listening on Spotify, I'm really sorry, but I promise I would be looking at you if we were having an eye-to-eye conversation. I would say I have been there. I did so badly in my mocks. I literally got straight 2s and 3s for my GCSEs. Yeah. So, and I got the biggest grind I probably have never worked harder in my life still to this day than I did in that mock to GCSE period of time. I was working all the time, continuously, constantly, really full steam. And when I got to that exam room for my first exam, the only thing in my head was, have I done enough? Have I done enough to prove it? Was I too late? And all of these kind of self-doubt moments were coming up to me. And I was freaking out. Yeah. There was a lot of pressure. My parents really wanted me to do well. But the thing that I just had to remind myself is, actually, at this point, I have done my best. Yeah. When I realized there was a problem and I identified, okay, got to get myself in gear here, it became a situation where I just had to accept I've done what I can. I've done my absolute best. I'm a smart kid at the end of the day, and it's going to be fine. And if, for example, you're like me and I had to get a 7 in biology, that was my biggest thing. I needed to get a 7 in biology because I wanted to do biology at A-level, and I needed a science at A-level to do psychology at university level, which has always been what I wanted to do. So there was so much pressure. I'm literally thinking, I won't be able to do the job I won't be able to do the degree that I want to do, completely panicking. But just taking that moment within myself and thinking, I've done all I can. I've done all I can. And if this doesn't go well, then, you've got options to retake if that's something you'd look to do. Or maybe you look at a different thing. Maybe you go and look at some apprenticeships or some kind of other opportunities that you can go to carry on your education process. But the main thing is it does not define your life. I did okay in my GCSEs in the grand scheme of things. When I applied for this job, they didn't ask me what my GCSE results were. Yeah. It's not the be all end all. Yeah. How did you feel before going into your GCSEs?
I was really stressed. I thought I dealt with it all right until years later, and I still have the occasional dream. I'm like, oh no, I got my exams tomorrow, and I've been doing the job I currently do. Yeah. I haven't been revising.
It never goes away.
It does. It's okay.
It does.
I'm the vast minority. But yeah, I think I was all right. I think I was okay.
But since doing your A-levels, has anybody ever asked you, like, with any outcome relying on your GCSE results?
No, I think it brings me a little bit of clout just because I'm a teacher.
Fair enough.
Right. So if I'm teaching maths and physics, students will be like, "So what'd you get? Yeah. Did you do A-level? Did you do the most jobs?"
Yeah.
No.
But it genuinely will be okay. And if you try and get yourself into this positive mindset, whether that's through doing a meditation, whether you're going for a walk the day before your exam, just getting yourself out in some nature, getting some fresh air, some exercise, boosting the endorphins, fixing your dopamine levels, just anything that you can do that makes you feel more positive and secure. And if you are somebody who is struggling a little bit more, maybe you're feeling a little bit more anxious than you normally would, then you can talk to someone about it. You can talk to your parents. If you can't talk to your parents, talk to a teacher, or even just talk to your mate or your sibling. Because sharing how you're feeling and have somebody just turn around and say, I'm hearing what you're saying. Yes. I'm seeing you as an individual right now. And what you're feeling is totally valid. But just they're able to offer you that little bit of reassurance as well. Just makes you feel supported.
Yeah, I found chatting to my parents and other supportive people outside of that GCSE situation made me feel really heard, made me realize there was more to life than the exam that's happening tomorrow.
Exactly.
And that, everything's going to be all right. You can sort of get into a little pit of desperation, can't you?
Yeah.
Where it's like, everything's
The world is going to end.
Chatting to someone who understands that the world isn't going to end it's really helpful. I think for students who have put loads of effort in and are really, really worried and are really, really anxious, teachers kind of fearmonger.
Yeah.
Because of the people in your year that aren't taking it seriously.
Yeah.
So they'll be like I remember my teachers put a big countdown on the front of assembly, right? They're like, it's only 60 days. We want to get it together. Right?
Yeah.
And I remember some people in the room really needed to hear that.
Yeah.
They're like, they weren't taking it seriously. They weren't fast. They're like, I got loads of time.
Little me in the back would be like, boom, boom, boom,
and then there were some people in the room who were like, I know there's only 60 days left. Right? And they didn't need to hear that. They probably needed a hug. Yeah. And they're like, you're doing well. Yeah. You're gonna be all right.
You didn't even hold my hand when you said that.
Yeah. Right. So it's gonna be okay. It's not the end of the world. Even if it really all goes terribly wrong. Yeah. It's gonna be fine. There's retakes. There's, GCSEs do not define who you are or what you do throughout the rest of your life. For people who haven't been taking it seriously, and it is 24 hours before the exam, what quick revision tips do you have?
Okay, so there's a couple of YouTube accounts, for example, Primrose Kitten.
Yes.
And they do entire paper walkthroughs. And what they'll do is they literally will go through and say, right, this is how, it's not like a past paper that they go through. They'll literally take you through all of the content in the most speed focused cramming style video you have ever seen in your life. Yeah. And those might be a good thing just to, even if you're not going to understand all of the areas, just to give yourself a bit of a mental preparation of this is the stuff that could come up, but also see if you can trigger some of those thoughts about, maybe you can remember when you were in class and you were sat next to your friend and you remember your teacher explaining it. And maybe you do remember that a little bit more than you think. Some of those kind of papers, those kind of videos might be really helpful just to get you a little bit more in touch. Something else I would say is if you've got a CGP book, have a look through that, because obviously that is the foundation level of knowledge that you need for the exam, where they've got an entire topic on one page. Spend 10 minutes on a page or whatever that looks like in terms of how long you've got, what time your exam is. Make sure you're sleeping still. That is more important. It's more important. You want your brain to be able to retrieve the stuff it does know.
Yes.
Than to be half able to retrieve stuff that you half know.
Yes.
Make sure you're sleeping. That's the main priority. But by going through the CGP books, 10 minutes a page, look at it, read it, look away. When you're a kid and you do look, cover, write, check when you're learning spellings, take that approach, because then you'll be able to get some of this information in your head, and you're just going to have to hope and pray that everything comes in the most beautifully flowy way into your brain tomorrow. But doing those kind of short revision videos, short CGP book pages, that's probably your best bet now at getting some of this information in your head.
That's really good. And there's great social media pages. So there's a guy who raps biology topics. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So if you can, it's really fun to memorize. If you're into hip hop, it's really fun to memorize rap lyrics and try and keep up.
Yeah.
So that makes it really, I think we might make some simple videos soon. But there's also, I've got a TikTok, Will teaches physics.
Yeah, new thing. Go follow if you don't. His videos are great.
Sure. And that's really good last minute stuff, because it's everything you need to know about current potential difference and resistance. So it takes these topics. But if you can find any videos on that, quick, compact, everything you need to know in an engaging way. You've got your long-term memory and you've got your short-term memory. Yeah. And you've been slowly building up this long-term memory by doing a topic again, recapping it and practicing it. There is certain stuff that you can cram into your short-term memory. So I remember, probably in every topic, there was stuff I knew in my long-term, and then there was stuff I sort of crammed in the last 24 hours. Yeah. Because in that exam, I couldn't have remembered what I did 3 months ago, but I could remember figuring it out last night. Yeah. Yeah. So that's also, you can cram a certain amount. Again, sleep's more important.
Sleep is definitely the most important.
Knowing it long term, but this is 24 hours before. I don't know if we've got the option for that right now.
You are where you are.
This is exactly right.
And mnemonics is also something else that can be really helpful sometimes, especially if you've just got a couple of points which you struggle to, let's say you've got an umbrella term. Let me think back to GCSEs. I'm trying to retrieve the short-term memory really came in clutch for GCSEs. But if you've got a couple of topics that all feed into one larger topic, and you just need to identify and be able to remember kind of the subtitles of the topic, so to speak, using a mnemonic to remember those, then can maybe allow you to remember some of the smaller level information that falls underneath, because you've got the rough like layout of all the bits on that topic.
That's cool. What's a mnemonic?
So a mnemonic is basically where you create like a rhyme. You can obviously put it in a song version if you're one of those kind of people, where each letter in it stands for, well, each word represents a letter which stands for, it's so hard to explain, which stands for whatever the word is that you're trying to remember.
Yep.
But if you can make your mnemonic funny, whatever makes it stick in your head, because this is a personal thing to you. So if it's something that your brain will remember, the better. Go for those kind of ones against something that's like the big chimpanzee walked down the road. Make it funny, then you'll be more likely to remember it when it comes up in the exam.
That's really good. Okay, so what is the most important thing, the final most important thing you would say to yourself 24 hours before the exam?
That's a really good question. That is a really good question. See, I think the thing I needed to hear before my GCSEs is you can do this. And this isn't a test where the examiners are trying to find all the holes in your knowledge and be like, you are so silly. You do not know this information. They're giving you an opportunity to show what you know.
That's really good.
And I think that's the thing that I needed to hear before my GCSEs. This is an opportunity to show what you know. This is an opportunity to show all the work that you've put in so far to make everyone proud in a non-pressuring way. But just, you can do this. Because obviously when you pair that kind of mentality and that headspace with making sure you're getting the 7-8 hours sleep, making sure you're having some protein in the morning for your breakfast and your slow release carbs so you've got your fuel, you're making sure you're in the zone before your exam, not speaking to people who are going to freak you out. You're maybe doing some active revision the day before, a little bit of testing, active recall, flashcards, maybe some past paper questions. Making sure you're doing all of these things when you combine them with a positive headspace.
That's really great.
You're in the clear.
That's
what
good.
would you say your main thing you needed to hear before your GCSEs was?
I'd say it's going to be okay. Even if it all goes wrong, you're not going to die. You're not going to drop dead.
Nope.
You're actually fine. And I think similar, use this as an opportunity to show off everything you know.
Because you're so cool.
Exactly. If this has been building to this moment, and in one sense, that's really high pressure. But in another sense, like it's a really cool opportunity to flex, show whoever's marking your paper, you understand this, and you're great.
Yeah.
It's good.
You got this. Woo! That was my cheerleading from the side. But anyway, I think that's probably all the time we have today.
It is indeed.
So we'll be back next week. If you want any say in what we're talking about next week, make sure you go across to our Instagram, pop us a DM. It will probably be me that's reading it. So send me what you'd like to hear and then we can bring it up in next week's discussion.
Great. Yeah, what do you want us to talk about? We want to know.
What would help the most? Because we've covered the GCSE, what to do before your exam today. If there's something about how do I manage my stress, I'm anxious in the exam, let us know and we'll come with all the study tips, tricks and hacks that stick.
That's right. And we'll show you out.
Yeah, if you'd like to. Anyway, we digress again. We have been the Study Survival Podcast.
That's right.
Make sure your post notifications are on so you don't ever miss an episode. And we will be back same time next week. But have a really good week and good luck if you do have exams that are beginning. We've got our fingers crossed for you.
Best of luck.
Toes.
You've got it.
You got this.
See you next week.
See ya.